good to know that crew.
And it says we're live. Let's see if.
Right.
Oh, there we are.
All right.
All right. Hi, guys. So we'll get started here in a few minutes. We'll wait for a couple minutes. We got a lot of good guys online here, Kurt. So we are this evening, guys. Just so you know, we're going to start by looking at max preps, and the goal tonight, guys, is to as we go into the playoff season, to prepare ourselves for teams that we normally don't see. Also think about working with different people that we normally haven't worked with this year, although there's a good chance we've worked with a lot of different people this year. And then we're going to look at how we could take the max preps statistical information and apply that using Huddle and what that means to us. So that's kind of our goal, and Terrence and Scott are both going to join us to talk about, give their input like they have in the past. Scott he's good.
Yeah.
Okay. Scott's good. Kurt's playing with the camera. Move it. Perfect. Stop. Stop, Kurt. Stop. I'm trying to get him to say stop, but he won't.
All right. We're good.
So how much time we got left in the game there? Are we done? Oh, we'll let them kick, and
There's always a score right before.
there's always a score.
Before half.
Lucky for Kurt there is.
Yeah,
Or else
exactly.
we would have been sweating more bullets.
So let's talk real quick. We've been bantering here about what best information we can talk through, and it'd be awesome if we had everybody together live. Because I think we've all got a lot of stuff that we can share and learn from each other. As we were talking about what to talk through tonight, that we can share this idea from our end out, I wanted to focus on this idea of using max preps. And if you've listened to us before, you hear me ask Terrence and Scott Novak what they do to prepare for the game. And even though we may not have the same kind of luxury to spend as much time watching game film and talking as they do, we still have an opportunity, and there's a lot of information we can take advantage of. And Mark was talking about max preps, and I shared with Mark and Terrence that it's not unusual to have a max preps printout, and we look at it and we see that there's some big runner and some big tackler, and the quarterback's good, but what do we do with that? And so hopefully we can tonight maybe go a little bit deeper than that and figure out what we do with the information that we have. And so as always, I'll get hung up on seeing some mechanics. We've got a game film we want to look at from down in Colorado Springs, just because it's a Saturday game. It's a very crisp video, and maybe we can apply some of this knowledge that we learned from max preps.
So with that being said, let's look at this screen here. So we're looking at Discovery Canyon, and the main reason, like Kurt said, is because we have good video of them. And the first thing I'm going to see pull off this is, it's obvious to everyone, is, hey, they run the ball. And that's about all they do, is they run the ball. So who runs the ball? So let's scroll and look at the offensive statistics, Kurt. So as we're looking at these offensive statistics, again, I'm not too worried about passing, but let's look at the running statistics. And the running statistics show me that we have a couple big runners. We got number 4 that's gotten 400 yards, and we've got number 20.
Let's see if I can. Yeah, it'll
sort. So there's a big guy, number 43. Look at him. He averages 147 yards per game. Look at his rush average. His average is 6.7. So that's the guy. That's the guy that the defense is going to try to stop. That's the go-to guy for the offense. So we know We know who that guy is, right?
What would be some other things that you would it's easy to say he's their go-to guy. What would when would we apply that go-to?
Well, when would we not apply that? I guess is the question.
Well, that's fair, but I guess I was looking for, if it's third and short, who are you going to give the ball to? And maybe we would then want to know, is it coming up the middle likely? Is it going to go outside? Is he a good runner on the perimeter? That kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I think the first key is to identify the player or players.
Sure.
So who's number 2 on there?
Looks like number 4, but he's a distant. He's got about a little under a third of the same number of carries.
So that's the guy they go to. So how does he get the ball? But let's look at a few more offensive statistics.
You got anything, Terrence or Scott?
I mean, the only other thing that I would add in here, I got Scott here on the speakerphone, but okay, so if this is a running team, so let's take this a step further. I mean, the reason they're running the ball really well is because they must have a great offensive line. So from my standpoint, from a scouting standpoint, I want to be studying the offensive line and looking at their blocking techniques. Do they like to run sweeps to the outside or guards pulling, those kind of things? That's where, I like that you guys are identifying who the running backs are, but the running backs are getting these yards because of the offensive line. So I want to look at their technique. That would be my main focus. Do you have anything, Scott, or?
Yeah, no, that's a great point, T. And the other thing is you want to see how they scheme things. And just like T said with the, am I getting guards or tackles that are pulling? Is it an option running team? I've watched 16 plays on these guys, and they like to run option. So again, for me, it's not so much about the guys, like T said, and certainly what Kurt and Mark say is true. The guys that have all the yards. I'm looking at how they're getting it. So I'm going to study more the linemen and stuff like that, especially when you get into the playoffs, because for the most part, unless you get a 1 versus a 32 matchup, the games are going to be pretty competitive. So yeah, you're going to get guys that are studs on the team, but just like T said, I want to know why are they a good running team? The line's obviously good. So what are they doing? I'm going to look more at the linemen than I am about the backs. That's what I need to officiate. It's how they're blocking up front versus the defense.
And then
and when I figure out the matchup, yeah, they got a good offensive line. Okay, they're going against this team. Now I'm going to go take a look at that defensive line. So those are just some of the things, kind of in between the lines, based on what Curtin and Mark were saying.
And then the fact that you guys have mixed crews for the playoffs, the fact that, like Scott was saying, what's their scheme and all that. I think basic mechanics, we need to just be talking about who's watching who. If this guard's pulling, this tackle's pulling, they run option, where is everybody's eyes looking? Those are the things that I would focus on from a scouting standpoint.
Right.
And those are great thoughts, especially if we're able to see a little film and we're talking about this in pregame inside that locker room, so that we can then go out and watch the teams and apply some of that exact same logic. I like that.
So let's clean through. I don't want to spend a lot of time on these stats, but let's just bump through some more of the team stats, because we know who the guy is in this particular case, but that's not always going to hold true. We may see teams that are the other way. Who's the top receivers? Who's the special teams guys? And then also on defense. So Carl Kramer, I'm going to give him a shout out right now, because he has been the guy that has helped me show me what he does with max preps. And this is some of the stuff I've learned from Carl, because I think he's the guy that's really mined this to a great degree. And I urge you guys to reach out to Carl, who's online right now, any questions about what Carl does. But one of the things he taught me is, if we look at the receiving core again, look at the top receivers. In this case, it's going to be number 8.
4 to 1.
But they don't throw the ball much. Let's scroll more, Kurt, here.
Scrolling down.
Yeah. Because like I said, I want to try to keep this short. I don't glean a lot of information out of this section. Offensive fumbles and pancake blocks, maybe pancake blocks, but in this particular case, there's not a lot of data there. All-purpose yards, again, we know who that guy's going to be. If you sort that out there, Kurt, on total, it's the same guy. That's our guy, right? He's almost triple or double the closest guy. So he's the player. Then it gets kind of balanced on all-purpose yards. And if we scroll some more total yards, again, we're looking at the same information, but any other teams that are out there, look at these stats and understand what they mean. Like what Scott and Terrence says, okay, they run the ball. This guy's the runner, but let's look at their offensive schemes. How do they block for this guy? You know, is it student body right, student body left? Is it deception kind of counter plays? What are they doing? So we're looking at, now we're going to go on the defensive side of the ball. Let's sort the total tackles. So if we do a sort on the total tackles column, you know, they're pretty evenly spread, but we got, again, number 59. I would suspect he's a linebacker. And and the same holds true, Terrence and Scott, when you look at the defensive side of the ball. Scott, what are you looking at? Same way schemes, how they're scheming on the defensive side?
Yeah, I mean, same thing on the defense. The guys that are making all the tackles, you know, if that's what you're looking at, that tells me right now that depending on whatever position, if they're a linebacker or a defensive lineman, you know, they're tough to block. So that's where I'm looking. If I'm the referee, you know, I don't necessarily. I always want to know where the good defensive players line up each play, and you know, because that's going to be a matchup problem. So, yeah, I want to know the guys, you know, like I talked about last week, the J.J. Watts, the guys that are just impossible to block, and you'll still get some of those kids in high school that are just mismatches. You know, the only way that sometimes those kids can be blocked is they got to be fouled. So know who the guys are and just go on film and basically see how they manhandle and take care of their opponents.
And just, you know, going down to special teams, Kurt, if you want to scroll way to the bottom now. Whoop, a little too fast there. So kickoffs, we're looking at, you know, who's returning the kickoffs. Looks like number 2. And again, he's the guy that takes the ball on kickoffs, without a doubt. So again, we don't want to look at the ball carriers on kickoffs because we're going to see what happens when we do that. But we know that guy's our kickoff return guy. Then if we look at punts, are they kicking the ball far? Do they have a punter on the team that can really boom the punt out? Nah, I don't see on this particular team. I don't see that. He's averaging about 38 yards. It looks like they have 2 punters out there, 10 and 34.
And then from that standpoint, you're talking about the punters. I always know who the punt returners are, being the back judge. And, you know, I watch a ton of film on them. You know, do they like to signal for a fair catch early, or I call other guys gamblers, like, hey, they'll never signal. So those are just things that you need to be aware of. And I always talk to those punt returners to this day about, hey, if you're going to call fair catch, make it nice and high so everybody in the stadium knows that you're signaling fair catch. And don't give me any last second fair catch signals either, because that gets both of us in trouble. That's my speech every week to all the punt returners.
So, you
watch all this stuff just looking at film. You know, if you watch them the previous week or the week before, you can kind of tell how they field the ball. So,
and the whole idea, guys, is to use max preps as a tool to go to the next step, which is to be looking at as current game film as you can. I'll add something else in here too. Sometimes max preps, if they're only as good as what they get from the schools. And I was looking at a school today, and they only turned in 4 games, so we can't glean a lot. But maybe there's other sources you can go to. Maybe the team has a good website where they give good statistics. So if you can't find it at Max Preps, do a little investigation on your own. So now let's look at the film because we know that they're a running team. We know who the runner is. Again, that's going to be number 43.
So before we, I'm not going to run it from the kickoff, but
Make that a full screen.
yeah, one of the things that I like to do, and you umpires that are listening, I encourage you to do the same. And certainly wings, once the duties of pregame with the umpire and the referee are done, hopefully you get enough time with getting your eyes on some players. And, if we just, like on the screen right now, assume this is pregame warm-up between the teams. I think it is paramount for me to get in football mode, and I will stand in that defensive back linebacker area, my normal position, and get bent over and get set, and look how the ball's getting snapped. Look at the size of the defensive lineman. We saw that number that was the big tackler. Maybe he was a D lineman, and if it's third and short, are they going to run it over the big D lineman? Probably not. We might be able to take a little advantage of that pre-snap knowledge, but I think just getting to know maybe some of the matchups. You see the big guys, maybe there's a smaller D lineman, and you realize that's what the coaches are going to try to take advantage of as well. So as much as we can glean from that pre-game lineup knowledge, I think the better. And the same thing, those wings you see on this screen, if this were the warm-up, I love it when the wings are out there watching the alignments, signaling to the backs or the wideouts, whether they're on or off. You just get in the flow. The game works so much better if you get some of that pre-snap. We start looking at this formation, and maybe there's information we can glean just in warm-up from this formation. Are the backs in no man's land?
Right. But I think we're in agreement by looking at video right now. Not so much in pregame warm-up. We should be looking at the video when we're going to the season.
You're talking about if we're watching game film right now.
We're prepping. We're prepping for this week. What we're looking for. We know 43 is our guy.
So we're saying we got.
How does 43 get so many yards?
We got Discovery Canyon this week, is what we're saying.
You're right.
Didn't get so many on that play, or did he? Yeah, he did. He ended up. Did they fake that? Nope. Quarterback keeper. That was kind of deceptive.
Yeah.
They faked the handoff to the big runner, and the quarterback kept.
Okay. So there's one play. We'll look at a different play now.
What play number are we looking at?
Play number 5.
Okay.
That's for Scott.
Yeah.
So we got one back set.
And that back's always set in a 3-point stance too.
Yep. Yep.
I don't know what that means, but it's just interesting.
A lot of motion. I think most of these plays we've seen, there's been a motion play. So 1st and 10, they throw pass. I don't know if you can glean from this. If we were also looking at the defense, are you able to pick up anything to say as a back judge or anything in this? Let's say we're scouting the defense in this case as well.
Let it play real quick. So the reason teams run motion, does anybody know why teams run motion? What's the biggest reason?
Someone raise their hand.
Or indicator of why
I'm looking.
Teams run motion? Because it ties into just what you're talking about. Does anybody have any idea? The reason an offensive team runs motion, which is a good indicator for us, they want to see if the defense is playing man-to-man or zone. And I don't know did somebody say that?
Martin Escotto.
Perfect.
Thanks,
perfect, Martin. I mean, that's why teams run motion. So in this play that you're showing, play number 5, that's what we're looking at, Scott. I mean, this little wingback runs in motion. Nobody's following him. So you know right away they're playing in the zone, okay? So the other step I would take further on that play number 5, that wingback that does go in motion, I mean, who's watching him if he happens to break out and maybe gets held at the line as he's trying to get out on the route or something? I would be talking those kind of discussions from our mechanic standpoint of who has eyes on him if he does happen to get held during let's say this was a pass. If he happened to get held right in there,
right in that area,
who would be watching it? So those are the kind of discussions you should be having. Scott, you thinking anything else on that or no?
No, it's all good points. And the other thing is too, just check the routes. Is the quarterback under center or is he in shotgun? And the other thing too, just to piggyback off of what Kirk was saying pregame, referees, it's always great. Watch how the quarterbacks throw the ball. Does he have a long release or is it a quick release? If it's a long release, chances are if there's a guy rushing on the edge, that ball might be knocked free because the guy's got a slower release. But just to T's point with motion, are they zone? Are they man? And then just get an idea what kind of routes are coming in. Usually in a high school game, we're not talking 5-7 step drop back. A lot of it's quick passes, especially if the kid's under center like he was here. So it's going to be a 1 or 2 man route, and the ball's going to come out pretty quick.
And there's not a lot of looking off at this level with the quarterbacks. Yeah. So go ahead, Scott.
Well, no, I was going to say there's not a lot of looking off. The guy's not looking at 1, checking down to 2, and then throwing to 3. I mean, a lot of times they got a pre-made where they're going with the ball. That's why, to Mark and Kirk's point, figure out who the big-time receivers is as far as receptions, and that's probably an indication of, when they do pass, that's where the ball's going to go.
Yep.
Let's look at some different plays, Kurt.
You want this one or you want another one?
No, let's just pull up another one.
So give the play number.
Well, I just went to play 6. This is a toss play. I'm guessing this is that big running back by way he carries that football. Looks like easy yardage for him here.
So let's dissect that a little more. So we got the toss to the right. Now, who's watching all those lead blocks and stuff? Those are the kind of conversations, again, we need to have from a crew standpoint. Who's watching the blocks at front? Who's cleaning up behind? I mean, these are the basic things that we should have been doing all year, but with the mixed crew, let's just make sure we're all on the same page and we're watching that action. From my standpoint over here, just looking at the back judge, I mean, there's no need to just close down on that angle like he's doing there. I mean, you could just pivot your head and just kind of see the same action.
Still eyes? You like the still eyes?
I always like still eyes. I always try to work to get still eyes. You can't do it all the time, but I always try to work to get still eyes. But then look at that player at the very end that gets knocked over. I'm just kind of suspicious of how he got down there, coming up right. Let it go. See that little shot right there? Where did that come from?
How did that happen? So I'm
Is
just
that
going
a cheap shot? Is that unnecessary?
He looked like he lowered his helmet into his grill, didn't he?
Yeah. So who sees that? I mean, those are the kind of things we need to be talking about. That's not.
Does that back judge need to be moving or should he be standing still?
Like I said, I like still eyes. So I want him standing still. I think he has the best look at that. But I mean, that's what jumps out to me. Doesn't that look kind of ugly to you guys?
Yeah, that looks suspicious for sure.
Anytime I see somebody on the ground suddenly, when I'm looking at film, guys, how did that happen? How did that guy come suddenly onto the ground? And as a sidebar, number 43, our big stud player, he's 6'1", 210. So, yeah, he's a big fella for a running back. 6'1", 210.
Okay, now we're to play 7. Interesting motion man here. They got trips to the right.
Do we have a end zone of that play, Kurt?
No, it's interesting. I thought we had end zone on all these too. I wonder what. I bet when I'd have to close out of this. I can get the end zones. Let me quickly flip over to.
But Scott won't see the same thing, but that's all right.
No, he will. He will. It's the same thing.
Okay.
I just need to go to this other. I think when I shared it, it was.
So, hey, Kirk and Mark.
Yeah.
You guys are on play 7.
Yeah, we were.
I'm going to get back to it in a sec.
Okay. Well, I'm looking at the 7, and again, we certainly when we look on, we don't ever We don't say things to embarrass people or whatever, but whoever this line of scrimmage guy is at the bottom, if you look at his body language and look at his head, there's only one thing he's looking at this entire time.
The runner.
The runner. I mean, what the fuck in the, pardon my language, but the runner's not blocking anybody. He's in space for a long time here. Just look at blocks. There's a couple blocks. There's a block right there at the 15-yard line that could be a potential block in the back. That should get my attention. But again, and Terrence hit on it. It's all about mechanics and move only with a purpose. This movement here tells me he's a runner.
And the other problem with this play, I mean, he is way too close to the action. So if you're that close to the action, you don't see what's going on. It's kind of the analogy, I forgot who told me this, but if you go to a NASCAR race, and if you're sitting right there on the fence of a NASCAR race, you see those cars going by, it's just a blur. But as you get higher up in the seats and you start watching the NASCAR race, all that stuff starts to slow down. Then you can start to recognize the cars. I mean, for a safety reason and from a mechanic standpoint of what to look at, he's way too close to this
Let's
play.
see if we got an end zone on this, Kurt. There we go.
I mean, they're right at his feet, right?
That's too close.
Way too close.
How did that guy come down suddenly? Remember we were talking
Oh, that was
about,
the previous play.
well, let's try to get back to, I want to see how that previous play. Is this it here?
Yeah.
So we're looking to see how that guy suddenly went to the ground.
You're going to see it right here. No, right there.
Oh, okay, he was tackling the
He
runner.
was tackling the runner.
Okay, but do you guys have? I mean, I think it's a fine hit, but those are just kind of things like Mark was saying. Guys go down to the ground. Who needs to be seeing that? Would you guys say that's a foul with use of helmet or what?
I think he uses the crown of his helmet on this tackle.
Okay,
When you dip that helmet like that, that is problem.
But again, the back judge, if the back judge is moving,
yeah.
So mechanic wise, we're a little off on this play. But again, I don't want to lose track of our focus tonight is how we officiate the offense and the key players. So here's a close to the goal line. I like this play here. So go back, Kurt. Go back to the stop it right there. So formation, Terrence.
Yeah. So what do we got here?
We got double wide outs on the top side.
Okay, so it's just a slot to the top.
We got trips up top. That's a tight end.
Is that
Is that a slot?
We'll go to the end
he's a
zone.
slot.
Can you go to the end zone for me so you can just make sure?
We can't see it's too tight.
That's him there.
But he's a wing.
Okay, so who has him?
So you got three to the top side, guys.
So who has that wing back or whatever? Was that line of
So
scrimmage?
the two outside would be back judge, and that inside wing would be the head linesman.
Okay. And so everybody's playing off, right? And what do they do? Well, they run the ball up the middle. So, I mean, that's just, I don't know. There's
Not
not
much
a
we
lot
get
on
out of
play.
Yeah.
Let's watch how they
Let's
block.
watch it. Yeah, yes.
Watch how they block for this
the
back,
the
up
middle stuff.
So the blocking looks clean to me on this play. I don't see any grabbing
No.
outside the frame or anything like that.
Actually, it's a failure of a blocking scheme because they didn't block this end. I don't know why they thought they could get inside of him.
But let's go to another play.
Hey, Scott, tell us as a referee, I know it's a little bit different at your level, but do you look at the front side of that block, or have you in the past? Would that be a good technique for the referees?
Yeah, so, because we have two guys back there, I take basically right side to the center, and RG takes left side to the center. But when the run's going, in a five-man, again, you don't want to focus on the runner. This referee might be a little bit too wide. I mean, wide is okay, but just understand that you might want to get in a little, maybe a yard or two to the left, and you want to look probably backside on that last play if you're talking about play number 8, and take a look at that block.
Right here. This is play number 8.
Yeah, so if I'm the referee on this play, I'm looking probably right at the guard who ends up getting his ass kicked by the defensive guy. But that's the block I'm looking at. And there's nothing wrong with that. And then again, to T's point and y'all's point, that's a trips formation on the left side. Even if a guy's pushing the line or you think someone's covered, just make them what they're supposed to be. The outside guy is obviously on the line. The next guy is not on the line. And don't even put that slot guy on the line. Even if he's close. Make him what he's supposed to be.
Now, it seems like we're looking at a pass play now, Scott. We're on play 10. You were talking earlier about the quick release. This quarterback, I don't think we've seen him take more than a couple step drops this entire
1, 2,
series.
balls out.
Yeah, that ball's
1, 2,
out pretty
balls
quick.
out.
And that may be the way they typically throw the ball. Ooh, did he get there early? Looks like it.
We'll see from the end zone if we can ever get
Play it in real time, and end zone would be a good shot.
the end zone. We're gonna show.
That was too early, but I'm not a back check.
Well, let's see from the end zone.
Want to see the end zone shot?
Maybe we'll see something here.
Go back.
No.
I just leave it alone.
What? Come on, ref. Throw the flag. No?
I mean, from the angle that we're seeing right here, I mean, it's just hard to. I wish we had a clean. I mean, as the ball's arriving, that defender's coming right there. I mean, he's right on the edge. I would just, when you play it in real time, it looks like the ball and man all arrive at the same time to me.
And I think I would agree if that's the opinion. I think we want to leave that stuff alone. Ball gets there.
Let's find reasons not to throw a hanky.
Yeah, that image right there might be suspect.
But it's a real quick play.
What do I know? I'm an umpire.
Yeah. So let's see some umpire plays.
Well, the game is starting. Oh, so they're going to kick a field goal.
And what do we got? What do we got here on this here?
Yeah, field goals are something you got to pregame, especially with mixed crews.
What do we see here on this field goal guy here though? He's a left-footed kicker.
Left-footed kicker.
That guy's a lefty, so we should know that now when we go out on the field Saturday or whenever it is. Hey, I saw in the film that's a left-footed kicker.
What do you do with that information?
Well, the wing guys are going to. So typically, if it's a right-footed kicker, whoever the wing guy is, is looking at my back, goes under the upright.
So this near wing would be under the post.
Okay.
And so what I like about that is we're clearing out stuff that we don't have to think about, and it clears out brain moments on pre-snap for us to prepare for a block kick, a fake kick, all those things that we can start processing. What do we have the potential to run into here? Roughing, all that stuff.
But again, what we gleaned out of watching film just now is, hey, we have a left-footed kicker. And a real strong leg. He barely, no, it's not good.
But, hey, that's a good point. You're now seeing a kicker that's not real confident.
That's right.
It's not like that leg was a booming kick, and maybe he's not coming out when it's from the 35. So
then it kind of comes back to, I don't know, was it last week or a few weeks ago, we talked about, I was mentioning the punt returners. I always expect them not to catch the ball. This kind of ties into this, expect them not to make the field goal, right? Expect them to do an onside. We look great when receivers catch the ball or the kick goes through the uprights. We look great as officials, right? Because the players are doing their job. But when I'm saying don't expect them to do that, it's just expect the unexpected. What do you think, Scott?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if everybody caught the ball and no one fumbled the ball and there were no interceptions, this would be a pretty easy game. Right. But I mean, you got to expect and prepare yourself for things that just are out of the norm.
So one thing that Mike Kelly brought up that in our, I know for sure quarterfinals and voluntarily,
Kind of
but
depends. Yeah.
but sometimes in the playoffs, guys, we will have a Mike Kelly's poll judge. So we'll have 6 officials with that. Remember that guy's just officiating as a official on field goal attempts and extra points.
That's all.
Thanks for bringing that up, Mike.
Yeah, and those of you that aren't familiar with that alternate official, he's the 6th official. He's in uniform. He tears off his jacket, goes under the post for any threat to the post, and if the kick is short or if there's any other reason to officiate, he steps out of the way and does not do anything. So it allows our wing officials to stay on the line of scrimmage.
So
does he get a full game check for that?
that's a sweet deal if he does.
You guys interested? We might have a
we
position for
got
you
some
at Terrence.
openings.
Absolutely.
Sign me up for that shit.
Have you guys talked about, say if somebody gets hurt during the playoffs? Is there alternates, or does everybody know where to move?
So again, working with different guys, who is going to be the backup referee? Who's the backup umpire? So if you're working with different guys, and especially as you go deeper into the playoffs, who are the guys that's going to fill in, and where are we going to put them at? So that should be handled before we get to the game. You can talk about it in pregame.
Absolutely.
So the whole idea here tonight, guys, is we got to do a little homework. Here's some tools for you to do your homework. So when you get into these playoff games, as we get deeper into them, we're more prepared.
Yeah, I think we better wrap it up. Unless you got any more comments in there, any more questions for Terrence and Scott, because they know we don't know what we're doing.
Please, you guys are on top of it. This is your show. Any comments on there? No.
They just want Terrence as the poll judge, because Terrence said, if you recall, Kurt, when Terrence first started joining us in their area meeting, Terrence is still pissed off he didn't get a final game.
Oh yeah.
So maybe we can talk him into paying dues and letting him be the poll judge in the championship game this year. We can get the muckety muck
Well,
stuff.
if we can't get him that job, we need somebody to hold that jacket of the poll judge.
Come on, I'll do it.
Maybe we could.
I'm the only one in this room and on the phone with Scott that all of you guys have worked the state championship game, right? I'm the only one that has.
I think, yeah, you're the only one. Get the hell out of here.
I'm still pissed.
Yeah. Hey guys, thanks a lot
All
for
right.
joining us. We really appreciate it. Have a great week.
Later.
Hang on, Scotty. All right, you there? All right, good, man. I know you got to get to other stuff.